Hello and welcome to this, our final event as part of this year's National Concert Hall International Master Course. It is the third time that we have been in this beautiful privilege of being able to host and be part of this week-long event. I'm joined by my co-artistic director, Finghin Collins, as well as Mate Such, Gilles Apap, and unfortunately, Mark Coppe is unavoidably delayed, but he will hopefully be joining us during the discussion. So it has been a wonderful week. We've been really excited to get to know new musicians. Some of those are familiar to viewers and some of them are not. Thankfully, we know the musicians since a while, and Finghin and I are very excited to be able to lead this panel discussion together. Finghin, it's lovely to see you this morning. Hello,
great to see you, Gwendolyn.
Hi, Gilles. And
hi, Gwendolyn.
Hi. Allow me to pose a first question, and please feel free to answer if you will. If I may, I'll start the question and ask yourself, Finghin, what your thoughts are. Do you find yourself returning, Finghin, to central themes in your teaching, and if so, what are they?
Yes, Gwendolyn. Well, I'm not a full-time teacher by any stretch of the imagination. I give master classes with great pleasure, but I don't have a teaching position. I don't have regular pupils. But there are several things that I do find myself returning to when I do teach. One of them is very simple, and it is simply that, and we're all guilty, as in many cases, we're all guilty of these things, not only students, but there is so much information in a score, so many indications, whether it's Beethoven or Debussy or contemporary music. And it's such a human thing that we think we're doing everything that's written in the score, as many indications as are there. And in most cases, we're not. We're not doing all the dynamics. We're not doing all the articulations. We've got into the habit of playing it at a tempo that may not be true to the wishes of the composer. And it seems like a very foolish waste of time sometimes in a lesson, because you're spending precious time saying, no, he didn't write that. He actually wrote a slur there. No, he wrote mezzo forte. You're playing that fortissimo. And you know, it's a terribly simple thing to say to somebody, just play what's written, and you think you could say it once and then that would be the end of it. But actually, it's a very human thing that we get into habits of not playing what's written. We don't always listen to what's being produced at the other side of our instrument, and we don't give enough attention to the end result. And so, to me, it's really crucial, the faithfulness to the text. And of course, we then bring our own character and our own personality to it. But I think the most important thing that we start off with as interpreters is by having a huge respect for the text, for the wishes of the composer, and doing our best to bring those to life in as faithful a way as possible. And linked to that is my other big thing that I've been going on about this week, and that's Pianissimo on piano. I don't know about on the violin, but certainly pianists think they're playing Pianissimo, and normally they're playing piano, or sometimes mezzo piano. And to me, Pianissimo is an extremely important indication, and in many composers, it's an indication of a very special moment in music. And sometimes it's repeated after a few bars, it's reiterated. Some students, and again, we're all guilty of this, we play Pianissimo for 2 bars, and then we sort of forget and lose interest, and we're back to piano after 2 bars. So that's another thing that I find myself very often returning to, the importance of quiet dynamics. Those are just 2 things that come to mind, Gwendolyn.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just worth mentioning that the questions that are being posed today are a mix of questions coming in from Master Course participants as well. So it's very interesting to know what kind of things are on people's minds. Marta, may I ask you the same question? Are there things central to your teaching that you find yourself returning to time and again?
You mean because of this situation that we have no more time to learn and to teach than to play concerts? This is also actually the question, right? That what's happening in these last 1.5 years. I think many things changed, and if you want, it can be even a good thing to learn, just like Finghin was mentioning. I also think that now there is time to go into details and to return from all that hurriedness which was going on in the world, traveling to one place to another and have not really time for anything really. No, there is many time, even more than than we want sometimes. But I think we can have a good use of it. So what I'm doing with my students is going into details. Actually, this is also what I always did, but now there is more time to do that, so it's not much rush. And I enjoy it actually, behalf, of course, of the negative things, what's going on. But the part that there is a lot of time, that's for me a very, very positive thing. And we are also going into details, exactly trying to find out what the composer really wanted and try to get rid of those traditions which might be different a little bit. And I'm also taking time, also not for music, but also for life a little bit. So this is also a very nice thing that I also suggest to my students, not only practice, know that there is so much time, but take care of themselves purely, of their health, you know. Musicians are not really, or were not busy too much with taking care of health because music, and then some, you know, meet some friends and then sleep a little and then go on. And that's that has an end, I think. So if you want to have a long-term goal, then it's very important to try to combine this a little bit. What else can be return to the health, for example. This is also, I think, a very important thing, is that we don't only think about music and how serious we do music, but also what is happening with us finally, meanwhile doing music. And I'm always trying to tell my students that, yes, please be very serious and be hardworking, but don't go over the edge and you know, don't destroy yourself, because it will have a dead end. Finally, you will regret, you will burn out. I saw many people around middle age, also in some orchestras, which were pushing too hard things, and then finally they burn out, and then, you know, everything for nothing, because finally they are not really happy, though they have a job, but you know, it's not really everything in life to have a good job. So these kind of questions are in my mind, or this kind of thoughts. Yes.
Thank you, Mate. Gilles, what do you think? Are there things, themes, ideas that you find yourself returning to time and time again when you are teaching or working with other musicians?
Well, it seems to change all the time. And because I'm like Finghin, I don't teach on a regular basis, you know, so I don't really have patterns of teaching, really. It always changes with the individuals, of course, you know, we all know that. So, but things that, yeah, that my colleagues were talking about, good health and things like this, that's what I emphasize things to a little more nowadays. Well, I'm pretty relaxed right now because, you know, I'm not playing for like a year and a half. You go back on the road, you see life differently, totally differently. But patterns, I don't have any patterns of teaching, no. I always try to modify things all the time. So that's one thing, being respectful of the text. I'm trying to, but it's kind of hard sometimes. But I do respect all the music that I see in front of me. I always try to do the right notes. But sometimes, you know, you get a little thing on the side, you know, but it works out at the end. It always works out. So all that to say that I don't have any patterns of teaching. I don't have any habits of teaching. So it's hard for me to even answer this question a little bit. I don't know.
That's fine, Gilles. That's very interesting as well.
Okay.
I might just pass the question back to Gwendolyn, actually, because Gwendolyn, you have done a lot of teaching in your career and still do. Do you find yourself returning to central themes in your teaching?
I think it has a lot to do with where we stand in life ourselves and what sort of thematic is important for us as individuals. And of course, there are questions to do with sound or technique that we visit every now and again, you know, with students, depending also on their age and at what point in their studies they are. But one thing I try to get across outside of, I very much agree with Mate, for example, that health is something I think musicians should consider and talk about and try different methods and ideas, different things to allow the body and the mind to cope with what is in the end a beautiful but extremely what is our job? It's beautiful, but it is pressurized somehow. We all have a lot of demand on ourselves. So I think for us to find some peace in all of that is really important. The other thing I try to get across is to I love the idea of the so-called Renaissance man or woman, the person who cares not just about the instrument they play, but about other aspects of their genre of music, other kinds of music, about the history of the music we play, putting things into a framework, into a context, so that we're not just looking at scores and reading these and playing them, but that we're also really trying to get as much inspiration from all different aspects of life as we can, which is something I like to try and take time for with my students.
Yes, I think historical context is also really important, that students realize the time and atmosphere in which the piece was composed. Very, very good. And moving on to the next question then, which is for you, Gwendolyn. I might start with you again, since we're on you and since you are somebody who teaches quite a lot. If you think back to when you were a student, when we were all students, what are the major changes you think in teaching or in the student-teacher relationship if we compare, say, 20 years ago to now? How has the vibe changed? Has the way we interact with students changed? Are students more stressed out now than they were 20 years ago? Or what do you see? Do you see any big differences there?
It's interesting. Of course, I experienced life from my point of view, but I was very privileged to study with a number of wonderful teachers. And being in their classes, I think I saw a lot of competition with one another. So I studied with Igor Ozim and with Zahar Blom and Anna Chumachenko, for example. And in those classes, there would have been a lot of healthy competition amongst the students. And I see a little bit less of that, which I actually think is a good thing. I think putting too much pressure on students in a class is not helpful. But I think the main differences are to do with digitalization. So I think students are much more busy with their screens, their phones. I think students still need to be shown how to refer to books and manuscripts and things like that, because they're so used to swiping left and right and doing things like that. So there's less of this interest in touching paper somehow. And I had a conversation about this with Natalie Klein, a wonderful cellist who is now based in Berlin. She studied with Heinrich Schiff, and she was saying that 20 years ago, the class of Heinrich, he had like 5 students at a time, would travel all over the world with him, and they would stay in apartments that he would have rented for them, and they would go out for dinner together and all of this. And she thinks that that kind of lifestyle with students now is it's just not possible. It's too close. It's too intense, probably, and probably that willingness to follow your master around the world is not there at the moment. I was certainly not now during the pandemic. So I thought it was interesting to see that 20 years ago I would have also been traveling to see my teachers and spending quite a large amount of scholarship money getting to see them. I don't see that happening that much now.
Mate, do you see any Any major changes in the student-teacher relationship or in the way students live these days compared to when we were students?
Not really for me. I think people always need the same. They need care, personal care, and my teacher Erwin Schiffer was not only a fantastic teacher but like a second father to me. When I was in abroad, quite young, like 18, everything was new. I was kind of lost, no friends, no parents, no nothing. And there was he who was not only taking care of me by giving good instructions and fantastic lessons, but searching for my apartment, giving me a mattress to sleep on, inviting me for a dinner, taking care of me. And I guess if something has changed in the world, then maybe that less and less people take care of each other, which should be coming back, absolutely. And I am a very hardliner on this. I take care of every of my student and every of my ex-student. Anybody can write me a message anytime, and I will answer them, and I will try to help them. Like we are a family, I think trust is a very important issue, because if people can trust, like I could trust my teacher fully, like my parents, like my father, then I can also I can also learn much more efficiently, It's like, so I think that between students and teachers is very important intimate relation in the sense of a personal relation, not only a professional relation. I think it's not enough. Like also to play music is not enough to play fantastically technical, but it has to be individual. It has to be honest from the soul. And I like for this very much the life before the digital world, when everything became very fast these days, unfollowable emotionally, not to follow. I mean, we can follow up with our brain. We are learning how to do all that things that's in that speed, but emotionally, where are we? We are still like before. Actually, we are wishing for the same. I think everybody's wish for the same. Care, a little quiet, take your time, and this is what we are trying to do, at least in my class. There is no competition at all. Why? Not just for the simple reason that everybody is different. Everybody is coming to me is different. If every snowflake is different in this world, then what are we talking about? Of course, every human is different, very much. So I'm also treating them the most optimal to their question as possible. And this is great, because what can you learn more than to teach different people? So it's a fantastic collaboration, I think. And that's what I think about this.
Yes. Wonderful. That's very touching how you speak about your students, like a family who can come to you always, even when they finish with you. And it's a wonderful relationship to be able to carry on with your former teachers, as I think many of us probably can. It's a very important relationship. Very good. Well, I'm not going to bring that question to Gilles, since he's not a regular teacher. But Gwendolyn, I might pass back to you for the next question.
Thank you very much, Finghin. A question has arisen, that is to do with the traditional concert format, which in the past would have been 2 times 45 minutes, for example, with an interval. Do you feel that this is still relevant, or do you think that 70 minutes, which is something that has been starting already pre-pandemic, is a way forward? Gilles, what do you think about concert formats when it comes to duration of a concert? Gilles.
Oh, do they have a bar or not? I mean, that's pretty much, that's what my friends always say, it's like, do we have something to sell at the beginning of or the middle of the show, alcohol or something? It depends, But like tomorrow, I have an interesting concert in Hungary. And near Budapest, and so I'm playing with this orchestra, and we were just talking about it. It's like, oh, should we do a break or not? It depends on how intense the music is. I like the two formats, doesn't matter to me, but it matters how you're going to create the second half, because, you know, you do a strong first half, then you have to create another level, bring it up there again. The format of playing in one shot I like it personally, because you have time to really start slowly, and then every time you involve and you get a little better, more exciting, and then everybody's happy at the end. And when you have a break in the middle, yeah, I guess, you know, you can stretch your legs, depend on how old the people are, you know, need to go to the bathroom, you know. And so that's one practical question. And but I would say two formats work out fine. But the question before about Gwendolyn, what you said about the kids and the competitions between kids, and what the other colleagues said, yeah, it's, for me, being competitive, we never learned when we were kids what it was to be competitive.
Gilles, are you still there? We hope you'll come back in. Mate, could we ask you what you think about the concert formats, the traditional formats, and what you think the future may be, or if there's something in between?
I guess Gilles was totally right that you can see this from different perspectives. If you are looking from the perspective of the audience, then I guess it might be better to have a small break. It depends also how long you want to have the concert, but I think more than 60-70 minutes at once is kind of a lot to concentrate. Especially these days when in the pop genre, you know, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, even very long. So 1 or 2 minutes, those songs which are going on all the time. And it's according to the concentration possibility of kind of average people, they say. I think that there is more than that, but you know, it's a huge difference between a few minutes and 60-70 minutes. So I think we have to consider that also, that we are going into a very narrow and rapid world. And I would say even we could have a 30 minutes break, 30 minutes break, 30 minutes. We could also do that instead of one huge big block. Also, older people might go to restrooms often. You know, anything can happen. You know, we don't know for medical reasons. So there was no problem with that old format for many times. So I think if the organizers, or for any COVID reason, you know, something might come, then we can do it. You know, but I don't think that it's necessary to really change things, because that was not really the problem. The format of the concert, it's more the way how we can interact with the people. You know, I think if it's a successful concert, then time doesn't even exist, so people don't even feel. I've been in very long opera places, opera concerts, which was not 1 or 2, but 3 and 4 hours. And if it's a very good one, then people are coming out even like, you know, they wouldn't even sit for 3-4 hours. So it all depends what we can get or give with our souls.
Thank you, Mate. What do you think, Finghin?
Well, I have to say that as a performer, I really like the 70-minute recital concept, because you play. It's a very efficient use of time. I mean, you play almost as much music as you would play in a full recital, which would be maybe twice 40, twice 45 minutes. So you can play, say, 75 minutes instead of 85 minutes, and it's a very nice feeling of building up through that length of time. Just start off and warm up and build up to a climax, or think of it in 2 halves without a break. But I have to say, I think in from the point of view of an audience as well, in busy cities such as Dublin or London or New York or wherever people are, and people have such busy lives these days. Both people in the couple are working, maybe they've got children, and so I think a 70-minute concert allows people to, if you like, get their culture in, so to speak, and they still have time to go for dinner, go for a drink, and get home early because they're up the next morning early. I think it's a very, in a certain context, it's a very efficient use of time, and I think it may also play a role in increasing the reach of classical music, which is of course still very much a niche genre in so many countries. I think that could help, because if people think, well, I'm in there at 7 and I'll be out of there by 8:15, it's a more attractive proposition than, we've got to be there at 7:30, it'll start at 8, we mightn't be out till 10, and then it's late, we're not home till 10:30. So I think from the point of view of a consumer, it's attractive. I think from the point of view of a musician, it's also attractive. So at the moment, I'm feeling very much pro the 75-minute no interval concert. But of course, I see the attractions of both, and certain repertoire, of course, you need to allow more time for, but particularly, of course, with opera and symphonic repertoire. But even with symphonic repertoire, the overture, concerto, symphony formula has been going now for so long, and I know that there's also some exploration in many orchestras of having shorter tea time concerts or late concerts where it's an hour or something. And I think that also has a great attraction to just, instead of padding out the concert, why not just do one or two works and really present them and just leave it at that. I think very often in life, less is more. You can make a really big impact in a shorter time. So those are my feelings on the current moves towards the 75-minute thing, which, Gwendolyn, as you say, was already sort of a thing before the pandemic and has now become more of a concept. I think Gilles has now rejoined us. Possibly?
Yeah, sorry about that. I cannot
Great.
see you, but I can hear you. All right.
No problem.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
About unhealthy or healthy. I don't know. I think you were talking about competition.
Oh yeah. It's strange what you said, but I wish I could have been like you a little bit, get this little sense of what a competition is between us. But on the other hand, we were happy without it, and I thought it was wonderful to grow up the way I did, in a way, because there is absolutely no. We could not prove anything, really. We were happy as kids, and then but when you have to be competing, I did one competition in my whole life, and oh my God, I thought it was pretty interesting. I could not control anything. I don't know how I would do it right now, but at the time it was really hard. And so you guys went into the hard school probably, but I had like really good teachers, are human beings, not the greatest teachers, but really good human being. And so that's all it was for me. And that's probably the best thing it was, loving your teachers. That's it. And then you teach yourself.
Sure. For the record, I don't think competition among students is a good thing. I'm not a big fan of competitions at all. What I was saying is that in the classes that I attended, there seemed to be vying
high
for
level
the attention of the teacher. And
right.
If we were in Martin's class, all of us, we wouldn't have to vie for his attention. He would give it to us, which would be wonderful. We'll all go and study with you.
I see what you mean. All right. Clear now.
Yeah. No, okay. I don't think it's helpful. Right. I don't think competition. I mean, competition. Who was it that said competition is for horses? Was it Casal? So yeah, thank you so much for your responses to this question of format. Finghin, what else have
yes. Been? I think, Gwendolyn, I'm going to ask you a question now. Do you think classical musicians of today have unwritten responsibilities to either the art form or to society? It's quite a philosophical question for you now on a Saturday afternoon.
I've had my coffee, it's all good. Yes, I do. I don't know whether many others do or don't, but yes, I do. I feel that there are some unwritten obligations in a way, yeah. And it has a lot to do with where the artist lives and of course how comfortable the artist feels communicating with their society. I think two things. I think the first thing is that classical music is often, particularly now during this pandemic, I've read articles in German, Swiss, French newspapers, and of course also in British and Irish newspapers, suggesting that the arts aren't really being missed and that people working in the arts aren't doing enough to make it sort of central to society. In other words, the words that I've read are things like classical music or opera or things like that are on the periphery of society. And as an artist, I don't know if that's true or not, because I live it so much, but I think that if we want to be more in the center of society again, then we need to step into that role. We need to go there, which also means becoming clued up about our communities, about the work we can do with our communities, about seeking a sense of social responsibility, of providing programs that our communities, first of all, would like to hear, secondly, would be open to listening to if it's new. And I also think that we have duties towards ensuring that our art form is educated to younger people and is offered as a learning tool. So yes, I do think we have to do things, but it also means that we need to, as I say, be clued up. We need to read about politics. We need to know what words we can use as tools to warm sort of the public again, to welcome them to our concerts. I don't think we can sit at home and just expect them to come. So yes, I think we do have that obligation.
Thank you, Gwendolyn. Yeah. Mate, do you have any thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I agree with Gwendolyn. I think our social responsibility is more than ever these days. And what kind of people we are is getting more important than what kind of musician we are, like before. Like Gilles was telling that his teacher was, first of all, a fantastic human, and of course a great teacher, but that's what he mentioned firstly. You know, I would be more than happy if my student would tell me he's a great man and he's a good viola player, you know. I think this is actually the order that we should all aim for and look for and get back, because all this getting thinner and thinner in the specialized, you know, the 1554th recording of the same piece because, you know, I know it better or whatever. So it doesn't have an end anymore. And anybody can cut anytime, you know. So we need to get back in real life, you know, real concerts instead of recordings, to have as much real connection as we can have and not this digital one like we are having now. It's a very good promotion, yes, but this is not live. Yeah, we are looking all a screen and having our thoughts. So we need each other, really, flesh and blood, and to help each other, to be there for each other, to listen to each other. Finally, you know, I think everybody feels so lonely these days. It's terrible, and you know, I think the world was never so rich as these days, but on the other side, never so poor as these days, neither. So it's a very strange difference that I feel as an artist here. I am trying to be an example as a human, first of all, to my teachers, also to my teachers as a happiness, but for my students, I'm trying to be somebody who they can follow as human, you know, trying to not abuse my power, for example, or you know, if I to stay normal, even though you get famous or rich or whatever you get. That you don't change. You're still the same guy as you were before when you needed help. And I try never forget what other people were doing for me. You know, when I needed help, they were giving a hand. And you know, how idiot sometimes I was behaving, that was no problem, because their intention was to help me. And I'm so grateful to them. And this is what I'm trying to also forward, all these old values, human values. I think this is our chance to get back in society when we are authentic as human beings. That then also the way we play, I think it's also coming differently. You know, when we are extremely technical and extremely perfect, it's fantastic, it's genius, and you know, it's incredible. But people are not only looking for perfection because they have it all the time. And today it's not a luxury anymore to have perfection. It's you switch on anything and it's perfect. Yeah, except us. It's quite frustrating.
Right.
We are more and more feeling like terrible, weak and imperfect among all those things which are around us and eating us alive. So I think let's accept that we are humans. Let's get back in time and hug each other and forgive each other. You know, that's what I think. And I think when we do that as musicians, less pretentious and more honest, I think that's what people will love. And you know, then we will have no problem to get back into society again.
Thank you, Mate. Yes, indeed. Gilles, do you have any feelings about any responsibilities that classical musicians such as we are might have to either music as an art form or to society in general?
Well, I don't think it's a responsibility to it's what we do. We have to take care of people who are listening to us. But what you say, Mate, was beautiful, and that was great. I was always, you know what? I love that confinement. It changed my life in a way. It did it. The first time I listened to music live. And that was like, I was in Russia and I haven't played concert, you know, be on stage for like a year and a half. So it's quite a long time, you know, that never happens since I was probably 16 years old. And I'm 58 now. So anyway, all that to say that you were used to listen to music all the time. Where I lived in California, we were able to play music and socially almost like 2 or 3 times a day. We would meet. We had the condition with the weather to do it, you know. So we would meet and we would play music for just about 2 or 3 hours. But listening to music was what shocked me when I was able to do it. And that was in Russia. And I was so happy. It was like, oh my God, music is back. And so that was like the best thing ever. And so that gave me like another extra boost and to really do my duty as a musician and as a, you know, giver. So that's it. Did I answer your question? I don't even remember what the question was, but
these questions are only starting points. They're like trampolines for you to jump from. So they don't need to be.
Boom.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a loose conversation.
Okay, great.
So yes, well, what do I think about this? What do we have unwritten responsibilities to either the art form or society? Well, I think there is more and more responsibility on musicians like us as the time goes on to reflect changes in society as well, and changes in how the world works, and to become more aware of issues which have become issues in our time. So we have a lot more, I think, responsibility in the way we choose our programs, maybe than when we did, certainly 10, 15, 20 years ago. We just took whatever we wanted to learn and we just played it. And we didn't realize that all of the people we were playing were white men. Nowadays, there's a lot more focus on equality, on equality in the programs that we present. We had a very interesting conversation at the beginning of our course on Tuesday, was it, with Katie McGuinness, the artistic director of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, about reflecting society more. And that, for example, she said in one of the orchestras she worked with in America that people don't see the music as relevant to them because it's old European, colonial, white, male dominated repertoire. And so how do we make music more relevant to society? This is something that's become a largely rightly so, I think, an issue in the last, 5 years. That we all of a sudden have to take more care with the music we present, the composers we choose, to be fair in as much as possible, to and even and represent as many people as possible. So these, I think, are the challenges and responsibilities to seek an equilibrium in our own minds, because we do have. It is, to me, one of the great challenges of being an artist is actually choosing what I will play. As a pianist, we have such enormous repertoire, and we get the joy of playing recitals and being asked to play recitals, and it can be daunting. What will I choose from this repertoire, and who will I choose, and why will I choose it? And do I just choose what I want to play? What are my favorite pieces? Do I choose what I think will attract an audience? Do I play what will reflect society? Do I play what will reflect social movements that are now happening in the world around us, or not? So these are, to me, these are the growing responsibilities on all of us, whether we take them on or not, as the time goes on. So, Gwendolyn, I think it's back to you for the next question.
Yes, something else altogether and entirely more nerdy, to do with technique. If you were to be asked to point out 2 elements of technique that you are finding very interesting at the moment, or that you are at the moment developing or thinking about, what would they be? Finghin, I'll ask you, are there any particular elements of technique that you would like to share for young musicians to think about?
Well, I have just, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, very simple, very, very, very simple things. And in life, I believe that the most simple things are the most important things. And one of the greatest pieces of advice you can give to any student is to switch on their ears and listen. When we don't play with our hands, we play with our hands, but we play also with our ears. And I don't think we all listen enough to what we actually produce. We are so busy with the input at the keyboard, we don't listen to the output at the other end of the instrument, and what's actually coming out. What are people hearing? Am I playing this soft enough? Will this note carry to the back of the hall? Am I balancing myself with my fellow artists on stage? An awareness of the sound that we are producing, because we're so caught up with playing the notes and playing in tune in the case of string instruments, playing everything in the right place, that we don't always listen. And I've seen it with students. You say something about listening, and all of a sudden they play totally differently because they've switched on their ears and they're really, really listening. So I think listen would be the most important piece of technical advice. I'll leave it at that. And since time is moving on, and maybe we can pass it on to another member of our team.
Gilles,
Yeah.
any things about technique that you would love to advise young musicians about?
Yeah, or it's kind of hard to talk about it, but the voice and also, it's funny, as this morning again I was playing with this orchestra and that I didn't know. So you don't know an orchestra, right? You're in the middle and you're just trying to not impose something musically, but trying to see how they're going to react. And so we did different styles of things. And there was an amazing thing happening, is the fact of trying to, tell orchestra players to play by heart, which is really hard. And I told them, I said, we don't care about the notes. let's do little fuck ups here and there. Who cares about the notes? Let's just talk about the music and the feel of it and all that. So I went in that direction. And so there was like two stages: frightened. They were frightened about getting their eyes out of the paper. So that was one thing. That was for me the most obvious thing. And then when they feel that they're secure, there is the most beautiful feeling of enjoyment. And so that was like the thing that struck me. Like, okay, you get the music, all right, you get your notes, you get this paper in front of you. So we paper trained, we pooper trained, as they say. But then you have the fact when you play out of the notes, and you play by heart. And that's what I would recommend to the kids or the young adults or anybody, just to go and do this little jump, to try to play without the paper. And that, for me, as a musician, it's almost obvious, but hey, this is me. Everybody's different. But what the experience that I had this morning was like really, really, really a good thing. And once you trust yourself, you can do it. And then you bring music to another level. That's it.
What was the repertoire, Gilles, that you made them play from memory without any preparation?
Oh, there is like one movement of a Mozart concerto.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and then there is things like a little riff, something really simple. But even the fact of doing something like this represents a lot of work for people. Oh my God, am I doing the wrong thing? So when you're used to switching music every day and playing by heart for an orchestra player, that's a big step right there. And we did it. So we were happy. That's it.
Thank you, Gilles. Mate, do you have any advice, technical advice, or advice on technique itself for young musicians?
Well, always what I see that people feel uncomfortable is that because they kind of leave out their body, and from the process, they play violin or viola, but they don't really think about how they breathe or how they feel meanwhile, because that's kind of like not important. Important is the goal, that it should be good and no fault, and we should prepare this and that and that. And what's happening to you, well, that's your private problem. And what I'm trying to tell to people is that if they wouldn't cut off their body, their physics, and their actual emotions with it a little bit from the playing, they would have much more complete music making, and they would feel also more healthy. And always the first question is I ask that: do you think if you are feeling tensed, that the audience will not feel tense when they listen? So I think it's very, very important, first of all, to find techniques which are not killing your body, or at least not forcing your body. I don't think that any technical solution is good which is in the long term causing you damage physically and also emotional, because you actually have to kind of press it down. So this is what I'm working on with the student, that first of all, they feel good. They are again in the center physically of their playing. Of course, we are still serving the music and doing what musicians should do, is to serve. But you cannot serve when you are ill or when you are feeling uncomfortable. So this is a general view for me, to look for techniques which are making a comfortable way of playing, combining your body, your emotions, and your brain. together somehow.
Matur, where are you?
I'm in Hungary, and you?
Are you?
Yes.
Where?
In the center of Hungary, close to Kecskemét, where Kodály was born.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
living in a small village near to that.
Wow. I'm in Veszprém.
Veszprém, yes, you are also in Hungary. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice to see you here in Hungary.
Nice to meet you
Fantastic.
too.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Amazing coincidence that you're both in Hungary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There is like this Leopold Hour
Yes.
festival over here. It's really nice. Wow. Anyway, so nice to meet you, man. Nice to hear your voice. And I don't know how you're probably a great musician. You sound like you are.
It's very nice to meet you, dear Jim. And I hope to meet you once in person also at last.
Yes.
Would be great.
Oh, great.
Shall I take the question back to you, Gwendolyn? Do you have any pieces of technical advice for young students watching this?
Well, of course, everything that all you have said is wonderful. I completely agree with it. I think if it had to be whittled down to two things, I would probably begin by, like Mate, putting the body and the mind in the center. I've learned a lot in the last 10 years or so about movement, and I'm very interested in anatomy and how tissue and muscles and nerve endings, all these things connect. Probably also because of personal injury that I suffered thanks to poor posture and poor alignment of the lengthening of the spine. So I've learned a lot, and I think that's probably where I'd start, because I feel that as soon as you can relieve people of tension, physical tension, you immediately relieve them of mental tension. It's just chicken and egg, which comes first? Who knows? Is it that you're feeling nervous, that's why you're getting tense, or the other way? And I think that's probably the thing that I would start with. I don't find, unfortunately, I'm so happy to hear Mate said, I have a lot of students who are open to it. There's always one or two who immediately close and they don't want to know anything about it. Don't touch it. The horse works fine. Don't fix it, you know. And then I respect that. But then usually after around a year, they see that there might be something positive about losing tension, particularly in the neck and the shoulders, that I find for string instrumentalists is just poison. And I think the other thing, so speaking about physical and mental tension, I think that what happens on stage for many young performers, and that certainly happened for me when I was a teenager, I would get really excited about playing, and sometimes I have to admit very nervous for new things. Like I remember playing Brahms Violin Concerto the first time with orchestra, and I didn't sleep for a month. I spent all the time just practicing and thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? And of course, like Gilles, and you don't have this problem. I remember I've always been really hung up about learning pieces by heart. And I'm always absolutely petrified I'll make a mistake. I haven't done it, but it's this recurring nightmare of going on stage and you hear the first notes of a piece and you're like, that's not the piece I practiced. Oh my God, you know, that was horrible. So I think what I learned there is to learn how to slow down the personal experience of time. So how
did you do it?
Well, this is what I learned through training. It's sort of like mental training to slow down time, because I felt that when I was getting nervous, I would be so preoccupied with
yourself,
with everything happening, that I didn't have an inclusive awareness. I wasn't able to actually take in the entire experience. I was just focused on surviving the experience. And at the moment when I realized that performing and playing is what I love and it's what I do, I was able to take, it took a while, I had to train it, but I was able to take this pressure off. So this is something I would love to try and help musicians with, if they find that they get on stage and everything starts happening too fast, to slow things down.
Hey, Gwendolyn.
Yes.
Did you have to? Did you ever take this beta blocker?
Oh God, no.
Oh yeah, when we were kids, that was the thing to do.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
I had a conversation about that with someone. I in Bern, where I live a lot of the time. There's a very well-known heart. No, I shouldn't say heart. Sorry, a very well-known cardiovascular doctor who's in his 70s now, and he worked for the Met for many years.
Huh.
And he was telling me that during his time at the Met, when people were getting nervous and artists were under a lot of pressure, they would prescribe beta blockers. And his opinion is that on the recordings, the live recordings or the recordings you would hear of the opera singers, if they had taken beta blockers, they sang really perfectly. Everything was in tune, but everything sounded a little bit sterile, a little bit clinical. And as soon as they would not take the beta blockers, it will not be so perfect. It might be a little bit wonky, but it was mesmerizing. And you would listen to every note. You were transported into whatever character they were playing.
So you never tried them?
No.
Oh wow.
No.
I was kind of weird to try them.
Okay.
Yeah. I played the Tchaikovsky concerto and I was terrible. You know, we were all, I you know, personally, you know, we never liked to be on stage really when we were kids, and we were terrified about being on stage. Really terrified, you know, especially to play little gigs here and there. You're not used to play, blah, blah, blah. So this guy goes, hey, take a little pill, man. You'll feel better. And so I remember playing that Tchaikovsky concerto, and I was like you, like 3 months. Well, make it like 5 months before. Just hell. And then I tried that beta blocker, and you put all this energy into one little evening. Oh my God. And you do, hey, this evening has to be so calculated. Oh my God, it comes to the gig. Oh my God. Okay, I even put a long tail. And I take that little pill. Oh my, it was like, what happened? I don't even remember what happened. I was playing and I was going, oh, this guy's here tonight. All right, well, she's got a nice dress. I was not focusing to the music at all. So I would recommend not to do that. Nowadays, people don't do it anymore, right?
I don't know. I mean, beta blockers are still very common in blood pressure medication. It's not like we're talking about something illegal here.
No, but when you play as a musician, and that's what I mean.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't recommend it. Going through the intensity of struggling with it and then overcoming it is actually, for me, has been more worthwhile.
Wow.
Have you ever struggled with nerves?
Me?
Yes, or Gilles?
Yeah, well, you know my story. I mean, I was so nervous that I cut my finger. Remember that? I told you that?
You told us, yeah.
Oh, it's not enough to make you fucked up for the rest of your life. My God, it was awful. I always hated to be on stage. No, it doesn't bother me much because, you know, this is what you're supposed to do. This as a musician, you give music to people and you have to do it well and you have to do it fully. But man, this confinement was so good. Not playing like this, not going on stage. And then now, yeah, it's different. But when you're a kid, it's dangerous almost when you have feelings the way we do. We're sensitive to it. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy thing to do. So you have to learn how to do it. What I recommend the kids sometimes is just to sing a little bit, you know, to settle yourself up, you know, when you're nervous and you don't have control, you know, and you hold this little bow like this with this little thing, and you get this little thing instead of shaking here. Hello, this is Gilles. Would you like to be my friend? So if you do that, and then you start doing things like this, and you feel that shaking, and you go, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to play a concert like this. This is hell. Okay. And then when I sing a little bit, like I would something by Bach, or, you know, I would sing the bass, just like 2 notes or 3 notes, and oblige myself, even if it feels weird, oblige myself to sing the bass a little bit. That grounds me in no time. Shkaboom.
Wonderful.
Yeah. That's, everybody's got their own ways of doing it, but I found my way very organic for me. And it really helps me just focusing against, you know, like my knees, my feet, and things like that, centered myself. This is the hardest thing to do when you're nervous. Going back to Grand Central Scrutinizer. Yeah, it's good now. It's all good now. Just like
Mate,
it just
do you
took
do when
40 years.
When you feel nervous before a concert, Mate, what do you
Well,
have special techniques to deep breathing or?
Yeah, I think like every kid, you know, I was practicing like the hell and try to, you know, prepare as good as I can and even better. And then, you know, I was still nervous. So then before the stage, I said, okay, I did my best. So whatever happens, I have not a mistake, you know. And that was helping at the first. I was just going like, you know, but for this, I needed to do my best, honestly. So that was the kind of the first step. And then, of course, all the thing that I was writing my PhD and all this breathing technique is coming exactly like Gwendolyn's, that I didn't want to live a whole life like that. So then I thought, how other people do this? You know, there's this kind of breathing techniques or something, you know, like meditation and all that stuff, you know, that in 20 minutes, like you would sleep 4 hours and all these things. So then I thought, why not try this to integrate it to viola playing? And then I started to think about it. And, you know, now I'm teaching this, like everything starts and ends with breathing, and it helps like really a lot. Like,
Oh, nice.
Really a lot. And all that, and even I can kind of touch and influence my autonomic nerve system, you know? So because that's what we do, consciously or subconsciously. You know, like Gilles, you were talking about, actually you are telling how to calm your nerve system down, which is doing things without you want to do, you know. And I think, you know, this is how we should all try to figure and help also to students. What are the techniques which we can take over already from existing things, you know, because we can make ourselves calm. Also by thinking on a certain thing in music. To sing is also a way to breathe. So yes, however we approach, but this is also what I'm trying to do a little bit scientifically, because I believe if I am more scientific, it's easier to bring it to students. But of course, there is also other indirect ways, which are also works perfectly. Some teachers just show, and the way they do, you know, indirectly they communicate with the students, and they also do, and they understand. So it's not necessarily this way, but I'm trying to do it a little bit also academical in this case.
Thank you, Matt.
Interesting. I have quite a practical way, if you like, of dealing with nerve. I find that, I suppose we're all the same. We get nervous before, you know, really big concerts. We get less nervous before smaller concerts. I think that's a very natural thing. And for me, a really good solution is to, it's again, it sounds very simple, but it makes great sense, is to, before what you might consider a really important concert, to try to play the program a few times just beforehand, on the nights before this concert. And I find that incredibly reassuring when I'm in the so-called big concert, and I can say to my subconscious, you did this last night, you did it 2 nights ago, you did it 3 nights ago, you just do it again tonight. And it's a very practical and very simple way. And now, you know, the previous concerts they can just be for 10 people in a room, or they can be smaller concerts, or they can be anything. But I find that a building up of experience and of this knowledge in your mind that you've actually performed this exact same program now several times makes the event itself much less nerve-wracking. Of course, that's more difficult when you're playing concertos with orchestra, because you can't always organize you know, an orchestra to play it through with you 4 times the days before. But for solo recitals, it's for me a very beneficial thing to do. So I think again, I often say to students, before your final recital or before an important concert, try to play it through. And even if you just play it for 2 people in a room, just play it through, and then play it through again the next day, listen back to it. It's, again, such a simple thing, but people don't do it.
Yeah,
So,
retirement home.
Retirement home. Yeah, exactly. Go to retirement home, play to people.
Yeah, those are really good, man. Because the old folks, they would tell you if they like it or not.
They would. They don't always have decent pianos, but that not always.
Yeah,
a big issue either.
I know. But it's part of the gig, right? You're a piano player.
Yeah.
We never have that aspect, which had in your life a little pressure, a little more pressure than we have, I think, right?
But when I was in Brussels at the conservatory and I was practicing late night, already the cleaning lady comes, and then I asked the cleaning lady, could you just come for 5 or 10 minutes? I just play a few songs, just, take a little interruption, And it's great. So I can recommend the cleaning ladies of conservatories are really good listeners. So ask them, great.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Perhaps one last question to round up this wonderful time that we've had together. And we're so thankful that you've made time to speak with us. I kind of know the answers to the question, but I think a lot of people out there don't. So I'd love to ask you, I'll start off with you, Gilles, if I may. If there are any things
you may.
If there are any physical sports or mental training that you do to complement your work as a musician? So things that you do to support your work.
Oh, wow. Well, I live in California, and you know what we do there. Hello. It's got to have a little wave. It's got to have salty water. It's got to have a little 6-footer, nice wetsuit. And then you paddle and you get your energy, and then you take a wave, and then you go back to it. And then you do that every day for like a couple hours. But that's on a good day, right? Then if you travel to Europe, I was in Portugal, there was no waves. I was in Brittany, there was no waves. So what do? I do a lot of every day. I start the day by stretching, by doing my own little cooking about my body, my lower back, my things like this. I always treat myself with that. Every day. There is, even if I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I would do it. I tried really nice exercises for headaches. I found a remedy for headaches. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, tell us about it.
Okay, good. Sometimes you give like concerts and you're all wrapped up with your own self and blah, blah, and you're tired and you have to take care of the musicians. And the morning, I don't know, I have a migraine. I don't know if that happens to you guys, but once in a while I have a migraine. And it would last for like a day because you give so much. And then you're, like we talked about, that intensity goes up to your neck. And you guys talked about breathing, and that helped me a lot. And so what I would do, I would get my breathing down, and then I forgot to breathe. Like and then I go, and I have this energy, this air comes up my head, and that just, every day I found that's my new thing now. Just gasp for air and just like, and that gave me energy, and that every day I do that now. That's my little recipe. It might change tomorrow, but this morning was like this, and the night before. Yes.
Thank you for that advice, that tip. Masin, do you do anything to support your work as a musician?
My teacher, Erwin Schiffer, was also always telling me the minimum that you should do is 1 hour meaningless walk, at least a day. So at least just walk around 1 hour for your hairs, for your, to clear up your minds. Just don't go anywhere, but just have a nice walk. And I was not only doing this, I'm still young, so I'm doing a lot of bicycle and swimming, almost every day swimming, like 2 kilometers swimming.
Oh
and
shit, man, that's a
75
lot.
kilometers of bicycle. So
Damn.
I'm like a Ironman trying to work out here.
Are you doing in the swimming pool? In the swimming pool?
Yeah, there are very nice beaches. You should try this. If you are in Hungary, almost everywhere there are healing waters. You know, we are a very good country for thermal water. And so wherever, just go on the beach and enjoy the warm and fresh waters.
Hey, dude, they have a marathon today, 4 kilometers the big lake.
Balaton. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Do 4 kilometers today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Take a note of it.
I'm so happy to know that more and more people are doing sport, because, you know, Hungary was not really a sport country before. You know, when I was jogging like 20 years ago, people were looking like, what are you doing? What kind of outfit is this? Are you, hello? You know? But no, almost everybody is doing this, also in a small village. So I'm so happy for this.
Finghin, do you do anything like that? Sports?
Well, I think that Gwendolyn, time is up. We have to wrap up this conversation because I'm ashamed to say that I don't have time. There's not time to answer this question. I'm really sorry. No.
Finghin is evading the question.
Sorry, there's just no time. I could tell you all the things I do. All the sports I do. I just haven't got time. It's you know, we have to wrap up this conversation. No, but it is true we have to wrap up the conversation. But it's also true that I'm not very sporty, and I find it hard to motivate myself to be sporty. I did some during the lockdown because I had nothing else to do. I did some jogging and I did some jogging and some walking, and I should do more. And I find it very hard to motivate myself. So that's me. So I'm going to draw a line under that very quickly, and I'm also going to use this opportunity to say how grateful I am to you all for joining us today. It's been a really interesting and wide-ranging discussion. I hope people have enjoyed watching it. I also want to thank you all, because this is also the last event of the International Master Course at the National Concert Hall. Thank you for being on our faculty with us. It's been a great week. We're so sorry we weren't all together physically, but we still, I think, managed to make some kind of impact on students and on the people who watched. And I want to thank also the National Concert Hall and its Learning and Participation Department, Nigel Flegg, Ciara Cuff and Colleen Worrell, for their tireless help and support in the preparation of this event, but also throughout it. There's been a lot of technical support in the background to bring all these events flawlessly to your screens wherever you are. So thank you so much. Gwendolyn, thank you for being a wonderful co-artistic director. I've enjoyed it so much. Thank you also very much to our sponsors, Michael Sheridan, TJ O'Connor, and the Embassy of France in Ireland. And on that note, I bring this discussion to a close and the International Master Course, and thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Köszönöm.
Köszönöm. Yes. Bye.
Nice to see you guys.
Nice to see you. Yes.
All right. Yeah, good. I hope we're going to meet and play some music one day.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, good.
Take
Have
care.
a good time. Yeah, nice to see you. See you. Good.